Hey everyone, it's Ben Hansen. I'm a UAP researcher and TV host, and I want to tell you about Parapod Festival. So this is a really unique event. It's a film festival combined with speakers on Bigfoot, paranormal, UFOs. I'm going to be speaking on April 1st at the Hyatt Regency in Santa Clarita, California. The night prior, I'm going to be leading a night vision skywatch. So there's a lot of events, cool stuff. Check it out. Go to parapodfestival.com for tickets.
How do we unveil the spirits, angels, guides, ghosts, maybe even aliens? Today we're going to find out, and we're going to be inspired by understanding of what spirit beings are. Because we have Psychic Michelle Welch on the show today talking about her book, Spirits Unveiled, a fresh perspective on angels, guides, ghosts, and more. We'll touch on ancestors, animal spirits, extraterrestrials. We're going to find out methods of identifying and connecting with spirit, and even ascended masters. And the environment of today, even protect ourselves from psychic attacks. So let's get this party started. I'm Tony Sweet with Truth Be Told. Please welcome to the Truth Be Told studios, Psychic Michelle Welch. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you doing?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much. And thank you for being here. I know you're on the road at a festival in Florida, so you're a busy, busy lady.
Well, you're busy too. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for being here. And I'm excited to talk about your book. And for the people in the chat room during the interview, Michelle is, I think, the first time here. So if you guys have questions for Michelle, about 20, 25 minutes in, if you have a question you want answered, and maybe Michelle can answer it for you, I'll ask directly from you. So you are my co-host for today. So Michelle, thank you. And first of all, I find it fascinating because every time I've interviewed a psychic, it's finding that acceptance of being a psychic is sometimes hardest to accept, and then even so-called quote, quote, come out of the closet, as you might say, as a psychic. So how is that for you of understanding your abilities and taking this to a different level?
Well, coming out of the closet, and I actually asked my oldest son, is that okay for me to say that? Since he actually did come out of the closet. And actually, when he did, all his friends were like, finally, we all knew, and that's kind of what happened with me. My judge friends, because I'm an attorney, my judge friends and all my lawyer friends were like, finally, we all knew something was going on with you. But, when you were picking a jury and you were kind of looking off, and I was like, oh, no, that was just my ADHD. Y'all didn't know.
Right,
like,
right.
Now I help pick juries. And they were like, we all knew. But to get you to just kind of explain what was going on. So people were pretty supportive for the most part. I think one person in my daughter's math class, because she went, and I never make fun of religion, anybody.
Right, right.
Seriously. And but my kids went to, in fact, my ex-husband and I helped found this school. It was a Baptist school in Dallas.
Oh, wow.
It's extremely successful, and it's a very good school. But when I really came out about being psychic and just told everybody, look, you can use my name, I'm not gonna keep trying to say whatever. And a math teacher asked her, in front of everybody, they were like, is your mom a witch? And she was like, and my daughter's sassy. She's about to graduate from law school from Baylor University, which is a Baptist school. And she said, well, I wouldn't keep asking me in front of the class because you might find out.
Right, right.
That quick comeback. But yeah, it was not that difficult, really. And the people who care about me, I tend to be friends with, for the most part, with people who are pretty tolerant anyway.
Right.
And so I said, anything that you want to know. There were some family members that were like, this is not how we raised you. It was more because they always knew. It was really more the gift of prophecy kind of and discernment in that context. And so some concerns for me, but it's you live your life and you let other people live it and you just don't worry too much about it. But yeah, sometimes I was concerned, but not too bad.
Well, and what I think's kind of funny because I grew up in Kansas, so that is the Bible Belt, and right, and being in the Midwest and South, sometimes there's those old like voodoos. You've heard of voodoo in this, in the Louisiana, and people that have a gift. But a lot of times when they put psychic and medium, especially in the Bible Belt, they do get really hesitant, and sometimes they do look at it as witchcraft or the devil. But in the Bible, they talk a lot about prophets that could see the future or see things that other people can't. So, before we get into the book, do you see how that changed so much when it comes to the religion part of it, when the Bible does kind of state about prophets?
Well, so how it changed from being...
Well, I mean, how do you think it changed from being just a prophet to being such a negative undertone to it?
I think there's probably a particular scripture, and I think it's in, and by the way, I went to Dallas Theological Seminary for a while too.
Oh, cool. Okay, great.
I didn't graduate because I hit Greek was okay, but when I was supposed to learn Hebrew, forget about it. It was much harder than law school. Like
I bet.
Law school was like kindergarten compared to learning Hebrew. So I think it was in the Old Testament. I want to say, I can't remember what book, but there is a portion that talks about not talking to medium. I think Roger always says to me, my husband, he always says, yeah, and they also tell you not to eat shrimp. So, okay.
Right.
And he's not making fun of it either. He's from Mississippi and born in Tennessee. So I think what happened with that is it's just where you're receiving your information. And I do believe I receive my information from my higher self that's connected to source. I do believe that we're all connected. I talk about that in my first book, The Magic of Connection. So I think the disconnect comes in with, even if you're talking about angels, they'll say, my parents will say, for instance, well, that could be deceptive. So it's like, where's that information really coming from, and how are you receiving that information? As far as psychic, if you really look up the word, why I started to reclaim it, because I believe it has a bad connotation. It's very much just like faith in the sense of this, it's unseen and you can't prove it. And so when you look those words up, when I'm coaching people, I don't really have time to do that anymore, but when I used to, that's one thing I'll tell them. Look up the word psychic, look up the word faith, and they're really
very similar.
Believing in something unseen.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I hear from a lot of psychics also, that their abilities are kind of passed down through generations. Like my grandmother, my great grandmother, I've heard that many times, that, I heard great grandma had a gift too. So why do you feel, even though everybody has the ability, being an empath, some people see spirits, some people feel things, but why do you think it's so present in so many families, and it does pass down the generation to generation? Is that just more of a built into the DNA type of thing, or what's your theory on that?
Well, I've thought about it a lot. First of all, let me say this. I don't think it's a rite of passage. I don't think you have to have that lineage to necessarily. So I think some people just claim it because maybe, and this may be judgmental, and I don't want to sound that way, but I did have an aunt that helped me, but she was kind of the black sheep and blah, blah, and
right.
Under the, on the down low. But it's really handy for some traditions. Some things people believe it has to be handed down in some systems that we're talking about. But in general, maybe some people say it because, it makes them sound more credible or something like that.
Right.
It was handed down to me. For me, I just think it made me not feel quite as lost or like, what's going on with me? What's wrong with me?
Right.
Because I had a big mouth. I mean, I go on and on. You have to cut me off when you're interviewing Michelle. It's my turn. But so what is my theory on it? I don't know if it's in your DNA. I think, like you said, we all have it. Some people just, get on a skateboard and they know how to ride a lot better than me.
That's true.
When I get on, I'm going to fall right off. But I'm determined. I'm going to practice a billion times until I can kind of do it. This just happened to be something that never went away. I never forgot. People are like, it's conditioned out of you. You it, and then you kind of reawaken. It never went away from me. So I don't know. It's a great question. Does everyone say that? I guess maybe. I left it off my bio for a long time. I call it, I would eye roll at it. I'm like, okay, another person that sensed a child, they were a child, and somebody, and it sounds so judgmental, but I just was really like, okay, really, like really since a child? But for me, yeah, I mean, why am I questioning them when same thing with me? So I finally put it on there. Yeah, since a child. I didn't put passed down because that's not well known in my family.
Right,
So I don't want, she's passed, but I don't want to out her about it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well,
Out yourself, not somebody else, right?
right, right. And you know, the book that you put together, Spirits Unveiled, and I think a lot of people that I've interviewed over the years, we've talked about angels and ghost, because even when I was a kid, I saw an old man ghost in my the house that I lived in. But unfortunately, I don't know if I was conditioned out of it or if I just grew out of it. Even though I'm a very sensitive empath, I can feel other people's energies. In fact, being in a crowd sometimes really takes energy out of me, and I can, for some reason, just get depressed and know it's not anything within me, but it was somebody else that was in the room. So I've talked to many people about how to tap into those spirits, to tap into, to angels, tap into connecting with spirits, ghosts, or even aliens. Sometimes people don't even realize that extraterrestrials have been either abducting their families or abducted them or even in contact with them, and they just don't know the difference between, was that just in imagination? So how do people determine if it's a ghost, angel, extraterrestrial, and they're contacting you and you just don't know it? Like, am I going crazy? Was it just a dream? How do I take this information and make it useful in my life?
Right. So I do believe these, I will call them spirit beings of some sort, and I explain it in my books. I kind of write like I'm making a case,
right,
like I would present a case. So I kind of walk through it to get people to where, okay, now I know what she's talking about. I try to anyway. And so, first of all, may I answer on that empathy? The magic of connection, the first one really talks about learning to transmute that. I go the next step. So changing that energy when you feel that in a room, because that's me too. And you start to think, well, everybody hates me. And, like almost reverse narcissism, like, oh, why do they, and, maybe they just have a headache.
Right,
but,
right.
Go in that room, how do we transmute that energy into something that we can handle? Because a lot of the books stop short on that, in my opinion. But as far as knowing, is this something, first of all, am I feeling anything or am I imagining it? I would just take the stance, I'm not imagining it. Okay. I am, pretty, most humans have kind of the ability to feel some things, that the hairs on the back of their neck go out of their arm or something. We have that instinct, the fight or flight. We were given that for a reason. So that's the basic one, right? Just survival instinct. But how do we know which?
Right.
So, and if we want to communicate with it, I talk about frequencies in Spirits Unveiled, because I think it's more, I sometimes believe that, and I went off on a big rabbit trail, you can tell I do that, but in the appendix of the book, I talk about, because it was such a rabbit trail that I was like, I'm not wasting this, because I wrote for it too long and my book was late because of it. So I put it in the appendix about dimensions,
right,
planes, and realms, because I think we kind of interchange all those words, and I still sometimes do, but they actually mean a little bit different things, so I won't go into it. So I really think it's about frequencies, because everything moves, everything oscillates, and really is that energy fluttery feeling, like really light, or is it more of a dense energy? And dense doesn't mean bad. That doesn't mean it's a low vibration, bad being. That's not what I'm talking about. So getting to know an elemental, for instance, which other countries take very seriously, fairies, I talk a whole section of my book. In the United States, we may think, oh, that's silly. No, it's not silly in other countries. They rerouted $1 million motorway because nobody wanted to tear down one hawthorn tree, right? So I think I talk about Solfeggio frequencies in my book, and we can talk about that if you want. But
yes, I would, because I really wanted to know what. I honestly don't know much about that, so I would love to hear.
Neither did I, until all of a sudden I was just like, I'm struggling here, because why is my book going all in the direction? How do I describe really because I say engage before you sage. Let's talk. And how am I going to convince anybody that they're going to want to talk to something that might scare them a little bit? So I stumbled upon, with the help of a friend who kind of recommended, I've heard of this thing, and there's these apps, and you can listen on YouTube to something called Solfeggio frequencies. They were banned by the church. It was specifically the Catholic Church, because of their conscious raising abilities. These aren't just your singing bowls. My husband plays singing bowls all the time. They are a mathematical formula. Joseph Pueblo, I believe, and the name of the book is that I cite. It's something about it's the apocalypse, something, and I read it and I got it during the start of the pandemic, and it's not an inexpensive book. You spend way more on your books than you make on your book, I think. But it's a great book, and I'm sorry that I'm drawing a blank on it right now, but Healing During the Apocalypse or something like that. And he found the Solfeggio frequencies during the 70s. And you guys are so, so cool. Thank you for posting those. And what they do is they'll tell you, like, a certain one will help with anxiety. It'll almost be like a anesthetic. Of course, using your doctor also. But
Right.
I added to the book that, in my experience, certain ones will help you get in touch with an ascended master. Certain ones will help you get in touch with, if you listen to them, more with maybe the ETs or the extraterrestrials, maybe multiverse beings or whatever. So that was my input. It's surely based on my experience. Your experience may be different. The one other thing I would tell you is, if you get an app, just a little hint, and you will want to, and you don't need to pay for them, get one of the free ones to start and see if you like it, or just listen on YouTube. But I would say, how they'll do meditations, and there's levels. They'll either give you a tone. So I'd start with those. And if you can't handle the tone, almost like alpha tones or whatever, if it's bothering you or agitating, it may mean that you need it. But if you just, this is, then you can get them with music overlaid. What I would not recommend is getting it with a voice overlay, unless it's, like yours.
Why is that?
Because the voice, unless you just really love the voice,
right,
it's going to distract you. Then you have maybe 3 overlays. You have the tone, music, and the voice. Sense. And I think it distracts from that getting you into the frequency. I will say this: some people have asked me, well, you say this one's good for thought forms or quote unquote demons or something. I don't want to get in touch with that, even though I say sometimes there's a good reason. I know, shocking, but if you are in fear, typically it'll jump you out of that frequency anyway. Fear or nope, you're going to pop out. I'm not going to say always, but you're going to pop out of that frequency anyway. So, but that is one helpful way. I hope I'm answering your question. I'm talking long.
No, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I like I said, I'm surprised my memory's not the greatest. So maybe, somebody has talked about this before, but I honestly don't remember much about it. So that's why I'm glad you're going over this.
You know why I think, Tony? I think that it's really just coming into, he wrote this, and I really think it's just people are just now starting to talk about it again. So I think there's a reason, right?
Yeah.
Why people are ready to hear it. And anytime something's just totally banned, you kind of wonder why. And then you look at there were tones. There's just tones. Right. That's all it is. But they banned them. And it was banned along with some pretty serious things. I mean, there were like 6 things they banned, and then these Solfeggio frequencies, and you're going, what was this, a political thing? And why are these banned? But if they were really just banned for the fact that they open up your consciousness to things that you know, like what we're talking about, then hey, let's try them and see. You know, if it's going to open me up to an ascended master that maybe could really help me, then why not do that? Try it at least.
I'm curious if they've done studies about this frequency that changes the aura, to see if it, you know, because I remember going to Conscious Life Expo and getting my aura taken, but I'm curious to see if certain tones, if they would take the aura again after certain frequency and tones, if that would change it automatically. I'm curious.
That's a great question. I'm going to try, because I see auras, but we also have a machine, you know, that does chakras and auras, and we've done healings after them, and we can see drastic differences. And I know Roger's done the singing bowl healing, so that's a great point. Let's do it. Let's try.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's do it on the air. But I'll tell you what I forgot to say is it's in tune somehow. His mathematical formulas were in tune with the Earth's heartbeat, which is, I think, 8 hertz, the Schumann resonance, and it was in tune with, somehow calculated with that. So it's really cool. And I'm horrible at math. So
I am too.
Anytime I get these math things and sacred geometry, I'm like, that's got to be a reason I'm getting that, because that is not what I would choose to get. So that has to be something coming to me for a reason. So I just tell it like it's given to me, because I can't mess it up, because it's not me, because I can barely do 2 plus 2.
That's 4, right? No, 6. Yeah.
1. I don't know.
Well, actually, at the beginning, I was saying people in the chat room, if they have a great question, I think Star Brother asked couple great questions here. First, what frequency is inflation? And then what technique do you use to clean your own energy? And if you use that, does that mean sometimes it's like anything, music or food, you know, somebody may not take to it as much as the other person. And so cleansing your own energy might work for you, but may not work for me. But how do you clean your own energy?
Okay, so various ways. I am one of people will be like, oh, she's one of those crystal people. But
Crystal Carrington.
I like my crystals, so I clear my energy with 2 specific crystals. Singing bowls I love, and I clear my energy with that. Tools, but I also don't use tools. So I'll tell you the tools. The main ones, there's so many, but tools, selenite. I wish I had it here. Almost like going through the airport, and they're or the courthouse where I don't go to the courthouse. I use that because I'm a lawyer. Okay, so they, beep, 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 something's on my shoes or whatever, the boot somewhere or whatever. And the selenite sticks or selenite wands, and then a black kyanite that looks like a broom, which is actually great for almost sweeping off any energetic parasites that you have. And also I do what's called a third eye candle.
Wow.
Candles, and my relationship with candles is a little bit, when I get angry, it's hard for me to transmute that. I don't get angry very often and give people a lot of chances, but I tend to go, where are the candles? And at our house, Roger just won't let me have any there, because not because I'm trying to put something on anybody. I'm just like, let's light a candle. And I write about it. I'll be like, I lit 3 candles, and he'll be like, no, you lit like 12. And you brought this big entity in the house. You can't see it, but your anger is just not good. And I'm like, we have 3 stores. I can go get more candles. So why are you trying to hide? But so I do a mind's eye candle to clear my energy too. And I just look at it and focus on it. And I will clear my energy with I know it sounds weird, but with my own energy, my higher self energy. If I don't have anything. So anybody why I do that is, number one, I think we're capable of doing things without buying a lot of tools, and I don't want people to think they always have to go buy stuff,
right?
A bunch of things to clear their energy. Nature can clear our energy. So I hope a lot of different ways. And I do try to change, because energy never goes away, it just changes form.
Yeah.
If we're going to do any of these things, like sage things, and we just walk right outside our front door, well, guess what? The next person who comes to the front door may feel that energy if we're not trying to change or transmute the form of that energy. So when I finally, a bunch of water in my chart and astrology chart, and I can get really sensitive and get my feelings hurt and be a big old baby. That's energy I have to change a lot. And thank you for that question, because you know what? I think people like me are a lot like doctors in the sense that we don't always practice we don't always do the things we should do. And so that's what I've been working on. A friend of mine called me the other day and I was like, can you believe blah, blah, blah. And she stopped me and she was reading out of my book to me. I was like, are you reading out of my book?
That's funny.
Rude. And she's like, yeah, I'm reading out of your book because you're not doing what you say to do. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll do it. But a lot of different ways.
I mean, how many times I've been to a doctor and, well, at least used to, nothing against overweight, but like overweight and telling you to lose weight. Smokers, doctors that smoke, you're like, wait a minute, how do you tell people to quit smoking, watch your weight, all this stuff?
When you're not doing it. When you're not, yeah. And I'm not by any means, I think I write about sometimes things that I know I need to work on. I'm also a little sassy sometimes. I read a lot. Anything that comes in my store, I read it. It's not going to come in my store
oh, that's great.
A lot of books come in. And I'm not judging. Do I agree with them? I'm looking for the things that absolutely are not, the big things that you cannot say and put in a store. And that everybody would agree, I would hope. You can't. But I find some things that I'm like, that gets repeated over and over and over. But do I really agree with that? And so a lot of them are, especially with spirits, you don't have to agree with me because I think we see spirits or sense spirits, especially spirit guides, in the way we can handle them. So somebody's not going to sense them or see them. I can help them know how to do that, but they're not necessarily going to see that or sense them the way I do. So my way is not always going to, I'm not saying it, my way is the highway. If in fact, that's a sign of a spirit guide you don't want. That's a sign of a human teacher you don't want. Like run if they tell you that, right? And run the other way. If they say, I'm the only person you should listen to, that's like a cult, right? So, and spirit guides are the same way. If they get possessive, all those kinds of things. And those are the things too that, you need to clear from. If one of them approaches you, you just listen to me. Don't listen to that spirit guide. Same with teachers. I don't know how I got off on that subject, but it's really important to remember. And that's why I write. Oh, because I don't always do I have to work on some of the things in my book. I'm sure.
And I've had that experience where I've had a psychic say years ago, kind of when I first was dabbling into, just kind of putting my toe in and, the psychic said, well, if you would have called me, which of course I would have had to pay for, you would have got that job. And my gut said goodbye. And I never went back to that person again because I didn't feel that was right for somebody.
No, that's unethical.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But that's a great, brings up a great question of how do we what are some of the ways that we know and identify with ascended masters, angels, or even like you say, our spirit guides, because there are some differences, or are there? Are they all the same or are they separate?
All the topics you just mentioned?
Yeah. Ascended masters, angels, spirit. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think they're different. So I think spirit guides are kind of an umbrella category. I put them in a book because the more I started writing them, I thought this could be an umbrella category for a lot of different beings because, a loved one that's in spirit could actually be a guide. And I'm going to throw something out there that most people don't say. I think a loved one that's not in spirit could be a guide. No one says that.
Right.
Because a lot of the books are written by the same, they come from a specific, is spiritualist, by the way, and I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying it's been my experience someone living can be a guide, a spirit guide, actually, and I've experienced it. So that's where I kind of deviate. But are they different? Yes. So the ascended masters usually, and I believe you can ascend on Earth. You don't have to be off Earth. I'm taken off to wherever that is. You can ascend on Earth too. So that's another area. And it's not that haven't studied all the books that say you can't. It's just that I don't agree. So ascended masters are going to teach you something specific. And not just, and typically they talk about ascended masters being, you know, Buddha, Jesus, you know, all that they've ascended and they don't necessarily have to come back to earth. I think they are actually teaching us something specific. So a lot of people don't agree with me, but I think it could be if you are an animator, and Walt Disney needs to work with you. It's not necessarily all spirituality for ascended masters. So they've ascended in their craft, maybe, because that may be, who are we to define energy and what's spiritual for one person, spiritual for another? I just don't get into that. I used to, but I don't now. And so elementals, and what I mean by that is that's a broad category, including trees and nature, are beings. They're everyone's energy. We're all just balls of energy, really. And they could be spirit guides too. So I think spirit guides is the big broad category. Are they different? Yes. Why? They have different frequencies. The big thing is that humans, and I'll compare to bringing the aliens here, humans have what we have our social mores, what we believe. We have our own moral compasses. Then we have social mores, we have ethics, we have laws. We think that everybody should follow ours. Most of us do. Why? Who made us the deciders? Right. Because we're humans, right? But an elemental, such as a fairy, which, believe me, they take them serious in Scotland, New Zealand, so they'll steal your trinkets. Like, this could disappear for, like, I had a necklace, it disappeared, and I knew. All my friends were like, "You're so ADD, you lost it." And I'm like, "No, I'm telling you." One of the things in my house took it, and it showed right back up. No, not right back, like 3 weeks later. So my point being, they don't follow. They think it's fine to steal something or to borrow something long term. That's not our ethics. That's not our laws. But who are we to say, why do we say what they're to follow? And that's not a low or high vibration. They are just at a different frequency too. If you're dealing with an archangel, that's going to be, especially like one that I deal with a lot is Raziel, who they think a lot of people think Metatron's the one for sacred geometry and all that. Right. It's not as much. He has his cube, but Raziel is the one that really will work with you. Very fluttery, subtle energy. And that's who I work with, which is hilarious because, again, really, like, you're going to ask me to do anything having to do with geometry or anything close to it. That's funny. But so that's a subtle frequency difference than a bombastic kind of energy. So that's where they're different. We're going to say, okay, they're different because they look different, they feel different, but really it all comes down to frequency because everything's energy.
And speaking
I said aliens too.
Right. Speaking of energy, my mother passed away about 3.5 years ago. My mother and I were extremely close. I called her almost every day. She lived to be 79. She was kind of a woman in her shell of a body for many years. I think her spirit, had left at least years before, and I think she was just waiting for the point for me she thought I could take care of myself or, be okay with her passing. And when she passed, I thought that I would always feel a connection, or I would see her in dreams, or I would get signs. Not saying I don't get those, I just don't see those. So how can you give me some advice, or people out there that, have loved ones that are still alive or maybe even past, but be able to connect to them better when one dies or when, your loved one has passed? How can somebody try to connect better to the spirits before they die and even after they die?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry, but I'm so happy that you had such a close relationship.
Yes.
And I do get a little emotional when a mother and son have that relationship. And I will tell you, I would love for you to try this. And I want y'all to know, everybody listening, it sounds very basic, but it works. Okay. So there is an exercise in my book, but I'm going to tell you basically really fast. So, like when you'll go to counseling for relationships or whatever, or maybe even before you get married, where you get to know one another. As you're just sitting down and you're going, okay, what's your favorite? If we were to meet, so you're going to change like what's your favorite color or what's your favorite song, and if one of us passes first. Now I'm going to apply it to a situation where I would do it with my grandmother and you'd do it with your mother.
Right.
What song would you play like randomly on my playlist that's not even on there or on the radio 3 times? What song would you play? What scent, because olfactory is so strong, right? What scent would I smell? And I know this sounds basic, but it's not. It works, you guys. Think of it, anything you want. Where would I go to get in touch with you? Because we all think they were laid to rest, but they're not there. Okay. So what all these, and there's I did everything in 11s in the book. So, cause it's a master number and I like it. So, what song, what number, what bird might I see? What animal might I see or hear repeated 3 times? You guys get it. Right. But a lot of people read these things and we're like, oh, okay, I know. Actually sit down and do it. Now, how do you do it when they pass? You just do it. You go and you sit somewhere where your mother and you guys used to be together, or if it's in a different town, just recreate it in a space or in nature. That they loved a certain flower. It's not always carnations and lilies. It might be or whatever, but it's not always. And I'm telling you, and I want to tell you, Tony, that I had, it's not exactly the same situation, but I'm careful how I tell this, because one time I told it and I actually said the name and I got very discombobulated because I'm all about confidentiality and ethics. Right. A good friend of mine, I guess now it's been about a month. Her mother was in the late stages of Alzheimer's, and she said, I keep telling her husband, her father had already passed, and she said, I keep telling my mom it's okay. You're going to go see dad. And she told her all these things. You're going to meet him and it's okay. It just got her mother more and more upset. And I said, okay, you're telling her what you believe. You need to just ask her some questions. She said, Michelle, no, it's not going to work. She's not lucid. And this part of the story I can tell. I just can't say the name. And she said, no, she's not lucid, Michelle. I mean, it's about time. I said, I want you to do it anyway. The same exercise. And I sent her the little page from the book, from Spirits Unveiled. And I said, now don't pretend like you're doing it. Don't just do it yourself. I want you to ask her the questions. Tony, her mother answered the questions. She started laughing. She told the song that her husband would have played. She said, I saw him. And so I do believe totally that you may feel like you don't. What I would like you and others, please, to do is just try it again. Now, I will say this. They have lives too. Okay. But that doesn't mean they don't love you. Right. Sometimes when they're not talking to us, they're doing the greatest work on our behalf.
Right.
Okay.
I do feel that. Like things come out of nowhere that I either was struggling with or things that I'm like, oh God, I need this to happen. And then boom, you're like, oh, thank you, Mom. Or, I do that a lot.
And set the intention. If you don't know the answer, just decide. Say, you know what? I'm going to set the intention. And I know it sounds silly, and I know it sounds like that's what everybody says, and it never works for me. One of them will start working. I used to not really, I'm going to just out myself on this. I used to think, everybody talks about this, the number thing, and I don't believe it. And the minute I started saying that, every time now when I'm kind of down, I'm like, oh, I just blew it on that, and I talked too long. I look down at my phone and it'll be like 1111 or 444 or whatever. I'm like, well, they just showed me, didn't they? It really does work. But it just does. And just set the intention. Did your mom cook?
When I was younger, but her health got bad, but she didn't. But she did cook, yes, all the time.
So, that olfactory, and something she loved like that. So I know and you were just asking, but it does work, you guys. And just so y'all know, mine's copper tone. So my favorite smell. But when I
Yep.
Because I've played tennis competitively my whole life. So not that y'all care, but just for the record, it's copper.
That's
So,
funny. Yeah.
yeah.
You said that, I could smell it myself.
Right? Yeah. So
Okay.
it does work, y'all. It does. It really does.
And so people out there, write that down. And like you said, it's not that it's that difficult. It's just, I think it's setting the intention and then letting the spirits, do their thing, and just let them, reach out and just watch for signs. I think people, a lot of times, especially, we have that tunnel vision where we're focused here, where all around us things are going on. And, especially with social media, you got your phones that constantly give you, distractions. But what I see is 222 every day, all day long for the last year and a half, 2 years. Have
you noticed when you normally see it? Is it when you're,
in fact, I noticed it today at 12:22. I saw it 12:22 is the last time I saw it today, and I see it.
How are you feeling? Do you know?
I guess it depends. Some days I feel like, am I in the right direction? Am I making the right choices? And then it'll pop up. I'll see it on a house. I'll see it on a car in front of me. I'll see it on the mileage, for gas or, time. So I see it constantly. It's not always asking the question of, am I on the right track? But sometimes I get a message that, I've confirmed something, or something that I've been waiting for. And so it just depends on what it is. So it's not really a good or bad thing, or anxiety or happiness. It just shows up. Yeah.
For you, it sounds you're involved. It's a validation of what.
Yeah, I think it's just a validation.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, time is flying away. I want to ask this other question from the chat room. Then I'll have one more, and then unfortunately we're out of time, because I know you're down in Florida doing your thing. So, so it says, is it possible to channel a living higher self as a spirit, and how can you know the difference if the spirit has reincarnated? If that makes sense.
Well, that's a easy of a question. Yeah, it does make sense. So a living higher self, and how can you know if it's reincarnated? Is that what you're asking? Okay.
So let me repeat that just so I can make sure I got that right too. Is it possible to channel a living higher self as a spirit, and how can you know the difference if the spirit has reincarnated?
So the living higher self as a spirit.
It sounds like that's what a living higher self.
I'm not sure I'm going to answer this right, because I don't know if you're saying that you're a living higher self. I'm sorry.
Yeah. If in the chat room, I'll ask my question. In the chat room, if you can reconfirm that question, I'll definitely ask Michelle. So I'll ask my question just so we can get that correct. Truth be told, we talk a lot about UFOs, aliens. And so I know in your book you do touch on aliens. And again, you see a lot of spirits, and aliens, do they come to you the same way? And do you believe that aliens are among us? Do you believe they're, hybrids of us now? Do you believe that, they are living here in the human society and making a conscious effort to help us? Or do you think they're just kind of witnessing what we do?
I absolutely believe they're here. I absolutely believe 100%. This isn't new to me, but it's become more apparent to me, to not only me, but to other people, I think. Not just being abducted. I haven't been, that I know of, abducted. Right. I see them, and they're showing themselves more and more, I believe. And I don't think that people are forgetting as much that they see, because that's a thing. And right. I don't know. It seems like it is. And I absolutely believe they're hybrid. Some I believe are just here, and they 100% are amongst us. I called them spirit beings because some, I think they're amongst us in human form, but right. I just threw them in because it felt like they needed to be thrown in. And I forget the other part of your question, but here's how I feel about it. why not? It's never surprised me. I always have thought, why would they not be? Kind of what I said before, like, why do humans think we're the be all end all?
Right.
I believe in multiverses. I had someone on my show that's a quantum mechanics. He went to Stanford. Hakeem Olasheh, he's on cooking show now. I don't know how that happens, but I haven't seen it. But he's a great guy, and I was like, do you believe in anything in my books? And he's like, yeah, you get parallel universes, Michelle. You get multiverses. And I was like, I don't understand them at all, but I know they're out there. I know they exist, and I know these, and they are right here 100%. And right before the pandemic, I saw a hybrid, what I thought to be alien, angel, like changing. And I'm sorry to step on people's beliefs on that, if I am, but I saw it. I mean, it was like, you used to look one way and now you look another way. Just shift right in front of me. And the feel was different. Do I think that they always mean us harm? Or excuse me, some are here to help us evolve. They're going, what are you humans doing? We're here to help you. Like, come on, y'all are.
Yeah, right.
And then some probably are not here to help us. And then some are just neutral and they're just watching us. Like, they're kind of watching us like, come on again, like what the heck are you doing?
It's kind of like watching a MMA fight or something. You're like, what are you doing? What are you guys doing in that ring?
Right. And so I think just like every being can, I mean, I got in somewhere after I said duality and polarity. I think I've been studying duality and polarity a lot lately, so I don't want to simplify it too much, but I do believe there's kind of spectrum of how we can behave, and I think that's true with probably most beings. I mean, so we've got it all going on, and of course they're here. I mean, and I say it's not always shape shifting. I think there's a lot of face shifting going on, and you can see it in an instant, and that's not bull. You really can't. And when I say see, don't think that you have to see. Using your mind's eye can sometimes, in sense, sometimes actually be more advanced than actually seeing with your physical eyes.
I agree. And then we got the question from the chat room. I hope this comes across. I hope I'm reading it right. A living higher. Let's see. Whoops. He took it out. Never mind. He just retracted it.
I'll answer it. What I think. I'll try to be fast if we have time, or I won't.
Well, we do. But he removed it. So as soon as I was reading it. So if you want to put it back in the chat room, I'll go ahead and ask. If not, first of all, tell us where people can find your book. First of all, we'd like to, go pick this up, and where can people find it?
So it's everywhere, like all your places, Amazon, but we have it at Soultopia. That's one word, Soultopia, or mysoultopia.com. MichelleWelch.com is the best place to get a hold of me, and the book's there. But it's also, Target, online.
Oh, great.
It's at Barnes & Noble, all the places. But Michelle Welch with 2 L's and the grape juice at the end. Michelle Welch.
Right, grape juice. I love it.
So.
All right, here's the question. He rewrote it. A living person higher self, the same way you channel a spirit.
Okay, that's the part I didn't know. So the living person's higher self.
The same way you would channel a spirit. I
think you could. Yes. And would you know can you know? Now, is it ethical? That would be my question. So could you channel that? I think you would need to know the situation. I have, with all the ethical parameters, because your higher self that's a great question. Who asked that, because the higher self is the higher being. I think of like a bowling, the pins and the bumper packs are the spirit guides. That's why you don't always feel them, because they're letting you get to your higher self, which connects to source, whatever, and all that is. So sorry, the hands movements there. But I definitely think, why not? Because that is a spirit being in a way. It's your higher self working through this here. Yes, I would say yes. And as far as can you know if it's a reincarnated, I think you would do that in any way you would ask, if you're able to read that. If you're able to read that anyway, I'll say read or channel that information. for me, when I channel, I'm not channeling. I channel, I guess, my higher self and source. I don't channel like another being. Maybe it's one of my guides, like Raziel, like I said. So to answer your question, I think you could. The question would be the ethics of doing that.
That's great, and thank you for answering my co-host questions from the chat room. And
I love your co-hosts. Those were the chat co-hosts.
Right. I love it. And so, you're going to be at Conscious Life Expo, is that right?
I don't know. I think Roger said yes.
Oh, okay. Well, I hope you are, so I can see you there. But in March 31st and April 1st, just to let people know, we are doing a Parapod Festival. That is a festival that I am putting on in Santa Clarita, California. We're going to have a film festival, podcast awards. We're going to have conference with speakers, panels, workshops, Native American dance, ghost, Bigfoot, UFOs. We have a transformational garden that's going to have breath work, yoga, all the good stuff that I love that's going to be outdoors. But, Michelle, the question I have for you is on March 31st, we're actually going to be at Metryville Ghost Town. It's right outside of Santa Clarita. We're going to be doing a stargazing, and people can go to parapodfestival.com, get their tickets, and join us. But not only we're doing stargazing with Ben Hansen, he's a TV host of Fact and Fiction, but we're doing on the site is a haunted house, a house that the original owner built. He built the first oil rig in California. His house is still standing. And it's a state park now, and they're going to allow us to go through this house at night, and we're going to do a little tour and maybe reach some ghosts. So can you give us some advice of going through and how to protect ourselves, or should we even have to protect ourselves going through this haunted house?
So sure. I think it's always good to protect yourself. And the way to do it, I would say, I'm not big on bubbles of protection, because I think a big bag entity could just take the bubble and throw it to the bottom of the ocean. I mean, like, here, let me just flick that to the bottom of the ocean. Ha, ha, ha.
Right.
So I believe in walking through doing a body scan, and then calling. You can put the bubbles of protection. You can use sage, crystals, whatever that is. Use sprays. I love sprays, but honestly, your guardians, if you have them, your strong guardians, and in so many ways that I talk about in all of my books. But I also believe the second part of it was really what I suggest. I'm real big on this, so I hope I don't offend anybody, but I don't believe in agitating ghosts. I watch shows where they say, now I'm going to agitate the ghost.
Oh, don't want to agitate.
I've heard that. And I just watched a show the other night, and I was like, now I'm going to turn the channel. Because I say this, they're people too.
Yeah, respect.
And respect. And I also say sage before you engage, reverse, engage before you sage. Now, that doesn't mean you want to engage too much if it's something you think is not good for you and is malevolent and you don't want to deal with that. But ask a question, especially when they're in your home, or as they did with my son Tyler. They rattled the hangers in his home, and it wasn't an earthquake, and it was at the time San Francisco. I said, just walk up and say, what do you want? Respectfully, why are you here? And so that's what I would do. And ask them what they need. And I also say really quickly, and I know a lot of people do this, and I used to do it too, but stop sending all your energy to Mother Earth. She needs help. That's not going green. So if people think they're really going green, that's not. I would help her transmute that energy and tell, and a lot of people say, well, go to the light. And that was my friend who I said that I did the exercise with. That wasn't helping her at all. You can go, Mom, it's okay. I would meet them where they are. So I don't know if I'm answering your question. I am not.
Yes, you did. Yes.
I'm not the expert you are on that, but I'm saying what I've seen that really bothers me as seeing ghosts and disincarnates all my life is I don't like people making fun of them.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And I know it's for TV effect, but when a ghost hunter, or whatever you want to call them, is surprised when they see a ghost, I kind of go, why are you surprised when you see a ghost if you're a ghost hunter and you see them all your life?
Right. Yeah, Hollywood likes to enhance things. So yeah, I don't necessarily agree with everything that I see on television either. But like I said,
know why they do it, but
yeah,
it's kind of funny.
yeah, but it's fun to watch. I mean, like
Oh, there's so many great people, and I'm not picking, but even my husband, I'm like, you be respectful to those ghosts. And he's like, okay.
Okay, dear.
Yeah.
Well,
But
Michelle, thank you so much. And please go to michellewelch.com. Pick up her book anywhere that I'm sure that they have books available. And I know you have some shops in Dallas, Crystals, is that right?
Well, it's much more than crystals. I'm not sure why it just says crystals, but it's pretty much anything. Of course, my husband, we both love. It's pretty much anything at our stores. They're called Soultopia. There's 3 of them, and then online also.
I was going to say online, so people can, if you don't want to drive to Dallas, just go online and pick you up something.
Soultopia, all one word. So soul, like utopia, but Soultopia. Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
well, thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're, like you said, you're busy with the festival going on down in Florida. So thank you for taking the time, and appreciate you. And thank your husband for helping set that up for you.
thank you so much. And I love your logo. Your event's going to be great.
Thank you.
That's
Well,
awesome.
maybe next year you'll have to come. Next year you'll have to come.
Thank you so much for having me tonight.
Of course. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Please, as always, support Truth Be Told as much as you can. We have Robert Hensley that does MINUTEMAN Report for Truth Be Told on Mondays. Bonnie Burkert, who does Truth Be Told Transformation on Wednesdays, all at 3 o'clock. And, of course, me every Friday. And then we have a brand new show starting. We have the Truth Be Told Spanish version with Metaphor. He's a young man that has great knowledge and excitement about this, so please look out for his show coming soon. And again, please pick your tickets up at parapodfestival.com. You can get tickets for March 31st for stargazing and I call it haunted tour, but and then of course on Saturday you got Linda Moulton Howe, you have Jimmy Church, Billy Carson, Ernie DuPont, who is the great-grandson of Sitting Bull, Robert Schock, and many, many, many other people coming and bringing some great information for all of you at Santa Clarita, California. So until next time, I'm Tony Sweet. Love you all. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye. This has been another episode of Truth Be Told. Thank you so much for watching. Recorded live at UBN Go Studios in Burbank, California. Join us on social media. Facebook, Truth Be Told Radio. Instagram, Truth Be Told Paranormal. Go to Truth Be Told Worldwide for more information on upcoming shows.